How you guys all doing today? Hopefully you had a good weekend, got well rested. We are going to start a new unit today on solving equations. Now this may sound familiar to you because we've actually done a lot of solving equations so far this year. But for the remainder of this year, we want to focus on some things that are going to help you guys the most next year as ninth graders in algebra. And a big part of algebra is solving equations. So in a couple of days, we are going to look at some equations that we haven't necessarily seen before. But today is primarily going to be a review, but I think a much needed review for many of us. So let's go through a few examples here. First example I'm going to do is something like 4x plus 12 equals 6x minus 8. And what we're going to do here is we're going to solve for x. So I highly recommend anytime that you are solving an equation that you first identify where your variables are. So in this particular case, my two variables are right here. I have 4x and 6x. Now what you want to do once you figured out where those variables are is you want to figure out a way to get them to the same side. So a lot of people like to do this. You guys are probably a little more advanced, so you don't need to. But right now you can see 6x and 4x are on different sides. So we've got to move them to the same side. Now, we can either move 4x over to 6x or 6x over to the 4x. Completely up to you. Generally, I like to move the smaller one because that's going to allow me to deal with positive numbers, but it really doesn't matter. So if I'm going to move 4x, what I'm going to do to get this 4x to the other side is I'm going to subtract 4x here, and then I'm going to subtract 4x here. What happens when we do this is on this side, we get 0x, or 0. So I'm left with 12 equals 2x minus 8. All right, now to continue on. Again, always remember where your variable is. Here's my variable. My goal is to get this variable in the end so it's by itself. So I should read x equals something, whatever that is. So when I look, I've got a negative 8 that's over here on the same side as my x. I want to get rid of that. So to get rid of a negative 8, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 8 to both sides. When I do that, those go away. So on this side, I'm left with 20 equals 2x. Still trying to get that x by itself. I'm much closer now, but I do still have a 2 in front, so it's 2x. So I'm going to try to get rid of that 2, which is right in front of the x, so it's 2 times x. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And when I do that, I get that x is equal to 10. All right, let's try one more example here just to make sure we got this. Sometimes people get tripped up when we start throwing negative numbers in there. So let's talk about an example like that. Something like a negative 6x minus 8 equals negative 5x plus 10. All right, so same idea as last time. We want to identify where our variables are because the x is what I need to get by itself. So if I've got them on both sides, what I want to do is pull them together. So I've got a negative 6x and I've got a negative 5x. You can decide which one you want to move. I'll move the negative 6x here. To move negative 6x, I've got to do the opposite of a negative to make that to become a 0. So I'm going to add 6x on both sides. Now what happens is negative 6x plus 6x is 0. So those will go away. So we'll be left with negative 8 equals negative 5x plus 6x which is 1x plus 10. Again, always keep in mind where that variable is. At the end, we need x to be by itself. All right, I see here that I need to get this 10 out of here to the other side. So I am going to subtract 10 to get rid of my positive 10. Now, if you struggle with negatives and positives, don't be afraid to use a calculator. Negative 8 minus 10, this will be negative 18, is equal to 1x. Now, 1x is the same as x, so we don't really need to divide by 1. You could if you want to, but this is the same thing as saying x equals negative 18. So that's going to be my answer here. All right, hopefully this review made sense to you. Hopefully these problems go well for you. Let me know if you have any questions.